I go for refuge until I am enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all living beings, not just the ones I like. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from sorrow, from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be separated from the happiness without sorrow. And may all beings live in equanimity, without attachment to some and aversion to others, and live really believing in the equality of all that lives. So, welcome again to Tara Institute. My name is Alice and I'll be leading tonight and this Wednesday's Tara meditation session. Well done for coming out on such a hot night. Oh my goodness, that's very inspiring. So, is there anyone who's new here tonight? Oh, a few people. So a very special welcome to you, and I just invite you to be comfortable and not worry about anything. You don't have to do anything. So the session will go for about an hour, and we'll do a breathing meditation, then there'll be a talk, and then we'll do an analytical meditation at the end, then there'll be time for questions, and then we'll have tea and cake in the diner. So, January the program's a little bit different because Geshe Doga, our resident Tibetan Lama, doesn't start teaching until February. So next week, Jeremy Cohen is going to take over for the next 3 Monday nights and 2 Wednesdays, and on the Wednesdays he'll be doing Chenrezig meditation practice, and Chenrezig is the Buddha of universal compassion, so that's him on the wall there with 4 arms. So he's said to represent the compassion of all the Buddhas. Then Damien will be doing all the Mondays in February. So Damien and Jeremy, I know many of you know them. They're fantastic teachers, very dedicated, very knowledgeable, so I recommend them highly. And if you want some information about the program, then there are newsletters that you can grab on the way out, but we have an online presence. So if you Google Tara Institute and follow the prompts, you can find the newsletters, and we've got a Facebook page and YouTube clips. This one. So do go online and find out what's happening, because we also have things over the month. There are regular practices, like today is actually the Tibetan 8th of the month. The Tibetan calendar is a lunar calendar, so it's the Tibetan 8th, which is Tara Day. So when I came tonight, there were people in the Gompa doing Tara Puja, which was very beautiful. So that's once a month, and then twice a month there are Guru Pujas. So these smaller pujas are really nice to come to. They're quite intimate, and it's a way to learn how to, I guess, participate in the life of the centre. It's a nice way to do it. So, last week, the emphasis of the evening was thinking about resolutions for the coming year, and we looked at broadening the scope of our resolutions to include not just my well-being, my good health, my happiness and so on, but to include the welfare and the happiness of others. And we looked at the possibility of establishing a positive motivation, not just once a year, because how easily is it forgotten, but doing it every day. And even doing it through the day before any activity is wonderful. But just in the morning, it can really set the kind of the feeling tone of the day. So you have to experiment and see if that's true. And I mentioned that a good daily motivation, appropriate at our level, as suggested by Geshe Doga, our teacher, is, I will not harm any being in the slightest manner, and I will benefit living beings in the best possible way. And we need to really think about what this means in our lives, really examine, because what Buddhism is, Buddhist practice is about understanding our minds. As Lama Yeshe, the founder of this center, would say, it's about becoming our own therapist. So some of you, I printed out that little quote, and some of you took it home last week, and I brought some more tonight because there weren't enough for everyone last week, so they're up there if you want them. So did anyone remember to do it? Yay! Good for you. Anyone else? One person. Oh, 2 people. That's absolutely fantastic. More? 3. Yay! That's fantastic. Well done. And did it make any difference? It did. Did you kind of feel more awake to acting positively? More aware. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much. So it helped him to feel more calm and more positive by setting that motivation in the morning. So that's fantastic. Because the thing is that, we hear about meditation practice from the teachers, and we can understand, we can see perfectly that it's a good idea, don't we? And that it's going to be beneficial, and we feel very inspired to do it, but then life steps in, and it's really hard to make the next step and actually do it, and even more difficult to keep it going day after day after day after day. This is a common problem, certainly one that I grapple with. And at the meditation retreat in Nepal last year, some of you know I went to Kopan Monastery with my son. I went for 2 weeks, and our teacher, the Venerable Yarpul, this fantastic American monk, told us that he has commitments to do really several hours of prayers and meditation every day. And since he accepted these commitments, he hasn't missed one day in 35 years. And when he told us this, all 260 participants burst into spontaneous applause, because we all know just how very difficult it is. But it can be done. So Geshe Doga says, by starting with small steps, trying to meditate regularly for short periods of time, it will become easier, and our focus will become clearer and more stable. As with any activity, success is directly related to persistence, endurance and enthusiasm. So any of you who have learned a musical instrument know this to be true. The thing is never to give up. Never give up, Even if our practice is patchy and sometimes we forget, Never give up and keep hopping back on the Dharma bike over and over and over again. And it's kind of like, you know, when we're doing meditation, breathing meditation, we have to bring the mind back to the breath 100 times, you know, bring the mind back to the breath. Off it goes again, thinking about what we had for dinner, bring the mind back to breath, then think about the meeting tomorrow, bring the mind back to the breath, and like that, in a patient and friendly way. So let's do some mindfulness of breathing now. So find the most comfortable posture for you, and it is important to be comfortable. So if you're not comfortable on the floor, you know, it's absolutely fine to sit on a chair. I think there's maybe one over there, or get another cushion. But we try to sit with a straight spine without being tense. And our shoulders even. If you're on a chair, it's best to have your feet flat on a cushion or on the floor. So sitting comfortably. And we can take the first minute or so to cultivate the most meaningful motivation for our practice. And that might be to heal and rest our bodies and minds in order to become more peaceful, in order to become more understanding and less judgmental. In this way we can be so helpful with the people in our lives. And the vastest motivation is for the meditation to become a direct cause to eventually become fully awakened, to become a Buddha for the sake of all beings. And if you know someone in your life who's having a hard time, who's suffering greatly, you can hold them in your heart and establish the motivation with them in mind. And we begin the preparation for the main practice. And that is, first of all, settling the body in its natural state. Because taking care of the body is very important for cultivating the mind. And the natural state of our bodies is imbued with three qualities. The first of these is relaxation. Being relaxed is terribly important. So let your awareness be mindfully present throughout your body. Geshe Doga calls it bringing the mind home. So we consciously bring the mind inside, away from distracting thoughts about past or future. Bring the mind right inside where we're sitting, and we check how we're feeling right now in this moment. And we bring our awareness, for example, to the shoulders. And if you find a tightness or constriction there, we breathe into it. And as we breathe out, we relax the muscles and surrender the shoulders to gravity. And we bring our awareness to the face, the muscles of the jaw, the temples. You bring your awareness to the forehead. Really let it relax and become smooth. And we let our whole face become soft and relaxed. We let our eyes feel soft. And we let our whole body be at ease in a posture of comfort and relaxation. And we try to maintain this throughout the practice, checking in now and again with a mental factor of introspection. So we just check, and if tension has crept in to the face, maybe from trying to concentrate, we again softly release it and return to the breath. And the second feature is that we settle the body in stillness. So there's a quality of peaceful stillness apart from the movement of the breath. So we let our bodies be as still as possible, firm and stable like a mountain. And of course, if you need to change position, to shift at any time for comfort, that's perfectly okay, and we do it very mindfully of our neighbours. And third, we cultivate an attitude of vigilance, of being awake and alert. The spine is straight so that when we breathe in, we naturally, effortlessly feel our abdomen expand during the in-breath and relax back with the out-breath. And to complete this process of settling the body, we take 3 slow, deep, gentle breaths, breathing in through the nostrils. As you slowly inhale, feeling the sensations of the breath, first fill the abdomen from the bottom up, and feeling the diaphragm expand, and finally, toward the end of the in-breath, we experience the chest expanding. Breathing in almost to full capacity, and then release the breath effortlessly. And we do this 3 times, slowly and gently. And then we settle the breath in its natural rhythm. And for this phase, once again, we let our awareness permeate or pervade the whole field of physical sensations throughout the body, taking special note of those sensations connected with the breathing, wherever they arise, in the abdomen, or at the opening of the nostrils, wherever we're most clearly aware of the sensations of breathing. We observe very closely the entire course of the in-breath. Breathing from the beginning of the breath, breathing in, aware of the pause, at the end of the in-breath, and attend to the entire course of the out-breath, noting the pause at the end of the out-breath. So we let our attention be continuously engaged with the tactile sensations of breathing. Breathing in, merely aware that we're breathing in. Breathing out, aware that we're breathing out. Just this. And Geshe-Doga advises that we place the mind on the breath gently yet vividly and single-pointedly, letting it become one with the breath, or as if the consciousness is riding the breath. He says the placement of the mind on the breath should not be done in a dualistic manner as if we're looking at a separate object. Rather, we place the mind single-pointedly within the breathing, letting it merge with the breathing. And this is done gently, yet with a vivid focus. Very bright attention. When the mind wanders, as it will, because that's what minds do, merely note the distraction, bring the mind back to the breath. Don't get involved with it. With each in-breath, vividly awake. With each out-breath, relax more deeply. Relax all the way through the out-breath until the in-breath flows in of its own accord, effortlessly. And whilst we're very closely observing the breath, we're not regulating it or influencing it in any way. So the breathing just breathes itself in the same way that it does when we're asleep. Flows in and out like the tide. If you find the mind becoming sleepy or dull, then again breathe in more deeply. Adjust your posture. Maybe let a little bit of light in through your lashes. Just attending to the breath coming in and the breath going out. And attending to the breath balances out the disturbances of the day. And now when you're ready, you can end your meditation and bring your mind back to the room, just noting how you feel now after the meditation, without judging good or bad, just noticing. And please have a stretch, or rub your feet if you've got pins and needles. So during my reading this week, I revisited a book by Geshe Dogabai, our teacher here, which is called Dharma for Daily Life. Just looking, not sure when the publication date was. 2014. 2014 was the last time it was republished. I think it's in the bookshop, and it's a really good book. So it's a collection of Geshe-la's teachings on integrating Dharma into daily life, but some very helpful information about meditation. And Geshe Doga is a meditation master, so his advice should be taken seriously. And he advises that when we do this meditation, we should tune the mind correctly, so not too tight but also not too relaxed, to find a balance, a correct middle way where we hold on to the object, our breath, just right. So it's kind of finding the sweet spot. Any activity, like I remember when I was learning to ski as an adult, and the sort of rare moments when you're turning, and my teacher would be saying you need to find the sweet spot. And when it comes to the point where you kind of your mind lets go, but you're also completely focused. And with any activity, it's a point where it's certainly very pleasant. And when we meditate on the breath, Geshe Doga says we can experience a specific type of happiness that only arises during meditation. And we can see the difference it makes to our body if we relax mentally. So by relaxing the mind, the psychic channels become more relaxed, which leads the physical body to becoming less tense. So from the Buddhist point of view, we have these psychic channels, sort of main psychic channels that then branch out, which the subtle energies of the body move along, or the subtle winds. So again, check up. We hear these things that the Buddha has taught, and we need to check against our own experience if it is true or not, if it's helpful. Okay, another book I revisited over the week is the Book of Joy, which is a dialogue between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And it's on how to cultivate joy and how to overcome the obstacles to cultivating joy. It's the most beautiful book, and it has really great exercises, meditation exercises at the back. And I was looking for my copy, but I think I've given 2 or 3 away now because it's such a great book. And when the right person comes along, you think, oh, you might really like this book. I've got it on Kindle, but I think that's in the bookshop too, but wonderful book. And, because we were talking about setting a morning intention, and it's a very important practice. And there's a section at the back of this book called Morning Intention Setting, and I've printed it out for you, and you can pick it up at the end of the session, and you might like to try that. So his advice is, or his explanation is, so you sit comfortably either on a chair with the soles of your feet on the ground or cross-legged. You can also do this exercise while lying in bed. So kind, before getting up in the morning, after the alarm goes off and before the rush of the day has begun, and you can rest your hands on your legs or at your belly. So blissful. And Lama Yeshe, who established this centre, who was one of my first teachers, I remember him saying that, if you can't do it like this, dear, then maybe like this, So gently. He used to say, the mind is not like rocks and concrete, you have to be gentle. So sit comfortably or lie in bed. And close your eyes and take several long breaths through the nose, feeling your stomach rise and fall as you breathe into the diaphragm, like we do in the breathing meditation. Then number 3 is you ask yourself, what is my heart's desire? What do I wish for myself, my loved ones, and for the world? Our deepest desires usually lie beyond our temporary wishes and wants. They are likely to involve living with profound human values that lead to our greatest happiness. calling us back to our place within the fabric of life. You know, we are interconnected. The Dalai Lama has a simple way of testing our intentions. Is it just for me or others? For the benefit of few or many? For now or for the future? This litmus test can help guide us to what we really, truly wish for. And number 4 is then state your intention for the day. For example, today may I greet everyone with the love that is in my heart. Or today may I be less judgmental. Or today may I be patient and loving with my children. And we could include in that with my boss, with my neighbour, with my parents, you know, with anybody. It can be specific or it can be general. If you don't know your intention, and that can happen too, it doesn't come up. You can repeat 4 lines, which I say at the beginning of the session, the 4 immeasurables. And this is, may all beings have happiness, may all beings be free from suffering, may all beings not be separated from joy, and may all beings abide in equanimity. So that's on the sheet. And I've also included on the sheet, because it seemed to be a lot of paper just for one thing. So there's another practice, it's called A Precious Human Life by the Dalai Lama, which some of you know very well, and some of you will certainly be aware of. He says, every day think as you wake up, today I'm fortunate to have woken up. And in Healing Group, when Bob Sharples, who is the guide or the leader in Healing Group, when he does this, he goes, every day think as you wake up, wow, I've woken up. Because not everybody does wake up. Isn't it? It's true. You know, we trust that we're going to wake up in the mornings, but my goodness, it doesn't always happen. So thinking, wow, I've woken up, I'm alive. I have a precious human life that has its own meaning from the Buddhist point of view. Does anyone know the next line? I'm not going to waste it. Thank you. I'm not going to waste it. It's more valuable than we really give our life credit for. You know, it's so much more valuable than just mundane concerns. And he goes on to say, I'm going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I'm going to have kind thoughts towards others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly about others. I'm going to benefit others as much as I can. So this is a really nice way to start the day. Okay, also on that sheet I also included the 3-minute breathing space, which is a 3-minute meditation you can do. It's suggested 5 times a day would be good, but even if you remember once, and so when you sit down at the computer or you're on the tram or you know on the bus, whatever, and you can just spend 3 minutes to come into your body, check how you're feeling, then focus on the breath for a minute and then widen your awareness again into how you're feeling. So it just brings you into your body and takes you out of that constant blah, 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 worrying about the future, worrying about the past. Okay, so last week we looked at the 10 actions to be avoided, the 10 unskillful actions or the 10 harmful actions and their opposites. And these 10 and their opposites cover the most common problems in life. So it's great to learn them. I think it's fantastic to know what they are. So there are 3 of body, 4 of speech, 3 of mind. So the negative are to refrain from killing, stealing and harmful sexual behaviour. The 4 of speech are lying, slander, using harsh speech and idle gossip. And then the 3 of mind are avoiding covetousness, harmful intention and wrong views. And their opposites are preserving life, being generous, having respect for others and their relationships, speaking the truth, uniting people with our speech, bringing people together, using kind and gentle speech and not buying into gossip, and cultivating contentment with what we have, wishing only to benefit others and accepting that our actions have consequences. And these 10 form the basis. This is what the Buddha suggested as being the basis for living an ethical life. It's kind of the absolute beginning of living a spiritual life. And I think in the depths of our hearts we do have the aspiration to be like this, don't we? You know, we do want to be kind and gentle with our speech and respectful of others, and to be content and truthful and generous, you know, just to be a good human being. Otherwise I don't think any of us will be here. And according to Buddhism, what trips us up in this endeavour is what's called the 8 worldly or mundane concerns, which is again another list of 4 opposites. So they are taking delight in having money and material possessions, and getting disappointed, upset and angry when we lose them or we don't get them. Then the next 2, feeling delighted when people praise us and approve of us and tell us how wonderful we are, and feeling very upset and dejected when they criticise us and disapprove of us, even if they're telling the truth. And then feeling delighted when we have a good reputation and a good image, and feeling dejected when we have a bad reputation. Feeling delighted when we experience sense pleasures, like fantastic sights and sounds and odours and tastes and tactile sensations, and feeling dejected and upset when we experience unpleasant sensations. And the thing is that these 8 worldly concerns keep us pretty busy in our life, because when we're always involved in these concerns, then we're constantly chasing happiness in external things. And the thing is that when we focus only on external things as a means of happiness, then life becomes a complete lottery. So again, you have to check up. You know, there are no guarantees. We might aspire. Many people aspire to being very wealthy and having a beautiful house, and that just may not ever happen. And even if it does, there's no guarantee that we'll be satisfied. Because I know very few people who are content with their house and garden and furniture and possessions and so on, including me. You know, because the mind is always finding fault and it always wants more. And you can see that with, you know, the television shows on, you know, house rules and, you know, these decorating and endless fixing up your house shows that are so incredibly popular. And on the other hand, you know, when I was in Nepal, I visited very high lamas who live in incredibly modest dwellings. And these are highly venerated teachers, but live in these very modest places that look quite poor from a Western viewpoint, and yet their minds are completely content. And those of you who've travelled in the East, you might have experienced the unbelievable generosity and welcoming smiles of those who have very little. So then, you know, gourmet food, we're so obsessed with that. Gourmet food, great sex, excellent music, linen sheets, cashmere jumpers, beautiful perfume. We all have that internal kind of checklist of what we're attached to, you know, good music, whatever it is. And so very happy when all of that's happening, but when they come to an end, so does the happiness, and then we're on to the next good thing, because we always want more, it's never enough. And we're addicted to praise. You know, we love to be complimented, and if we hear the slightest criticism, which is usually second-hand, isn't it? Because people are not so good maybe at telling us directly what's wrong with us, but can tell it to somebody else, then the happy mind drops like a stone. You know, you get that awful kind of, terrible feeling. Because the mind is, I said last week, it's Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. And yet if someone has a negative view of us, what does it matter, really? If we're doing our best, if we can lie straight in bed. And but it's such a deep-seated habit, and there are a number of people in my life who think I'm a complete pain in the neck. And amazing, but it's true. And when I became aware of this about a particular, it was a bit of an A-list group of people, you know, when I became aware that they thought I was a complete pain in the bum and too serious and too religious and, you know, all of that, it felt like being stabbed in the chest. And it felt like being stabbed in the chest again and again and again whenever I thought about it, which was quite often. And it still comes up. It's weird. But over the years, kind of thinking more analytically about this with, you know, the teachings of the Buddha to help and being reminded by our teachers, then it kind of calms down. And when it comes up, you tend to, rather than replaying that movie, you know, playing through the whole thing again, so boring, you know, you can catch yourself and think, don't go there, you know, just do something else. And after all, even the Buddha and the Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa have had their detractors, you know, and problems with their parents. But not everyone is going to love us. That's the reality. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Enough people do. So now, what is Buddhism saying here? Does it feel like the Buddha is saying you mustn't enjoy your life? You mustn't enjoy the cashmere jumpers. Because if it seems like that, then we're mistaking the whole thing. And really, you know, we don't need the Buddhas to help us feel miserable, because we're already doing a really good job of that on our own. So the purpose of this set of teachings is to see how hooked in we are to the process of feeling high when we got what we want and disappointed when we don't, which leads to mental suffering and agitation, and we're completely, you know, at the mercy of the advertising industry. So it's about trying to get us to be more balanced and more realistic, to still enjoy the things in life we should. We have a wonderful life in Australia. Geshe Doga says if you can't be happy in Australia, you're not going to be happy anywhere. So, you know, we have a wonderful life, but to spend part of our day, at least a small part of the day, internally, so not buying into all the external stuff, but just spending some time inside, breathing, settling the mind and looking at the mind. So, in Tricycle magazine, B. Alan Wallace, some of you might know of him, who's a very wonderful meditation teacher. His speciality is calm abiding, shamatha meditation, based on breathing meditation. And in Tricycle he was asked, what makes for a meaningful life? And his answer was, I consider each day, not just the life as a whole. I look at 4 ingredients. First, was it a day of virtue? I'm talking about basic Buddhist ethics, avoiding harmful behaviour of body, speech and mind, devoting ourselves to wholesome behaviour and to qualities like awareness and compassion. Second, I'd like to feel happy rather than miserable. The realised beings I've known exemplify extraordinary states of well-being, and it shows in their demeanour, their way of dealing with adversity, with life, with other people. You see it in people like the Dalai Lama, in our own Geshe Doga. really incredibly happy minds and very joyful. Third, pursuit of the truth, seeking to understand the nature of life, of reality, of interpersonal relationships, or the nature of mind. But you could do all that sitting quietly in a room. None of us exists in isolation, however, so there is a fourth ingredient. A meaningful life must also answer the question, what have I brought to the world? If I can look at a day and see that virtue, happiness, truth, and living an altruistic life are prominent elements, I can say, I'm a happy camper. Pursuing happiness doesn't depend on my checkbook or the behaviour of my spouse or my job or my salary. I can live a meaningful life even if I only have 10 minutes left. So I found that pretty inspiring. So we might just do to finish up, a short reflection. So just try and be comfortable again. Bring the mind home, setting aside thinking about past and future, making this moment our focus. And just reflect. What does your happiness and flourishing entail? How do you imagine it? Really think about this in a personal way. What type of person would you be to flourish as you wish? What would you like to bring to each day? What are the qualities you would wish to cultivate? And name them. Maybe dignity, patience, courage, quietness, kindness. What quality of awareness and behavior would you have in order to be the best you can be? In order to see clearly what needs to be done, to act mindfully, to be totally present with those who are near me, to be cheerful, open and aware, maybe to be gracious, modest, helpful in the right way. Imagine being like this in any situation, even the difficult ones, the family gatherings, the difficult meetings, difficult conversations. Imagine how it might feel. What would it look like to be the best we can be? To be relaxed, acting wisely, being considerate. Think how it would be for the people with whom you interact. How relaxed they would be. And we might make a commitment to gently, patiently and wisely work on bringing this about in some way. By spending some time each day working with the mind and calming the mind. And we can dedicate all of the positive energy and potential of coming here together, thinking about the teachings together, meditating. We can dedicate it to our own awakening and to the happiness of all living beings and the well-being of our beautiful planet. And when you're ready, you can relax your concentration. So, does anyone have a question? Okay, so thank you very much. We can have a cup of tea, and if you would like to take the morning practice, please do. I apologise, it was done on my hopeless printer at home, so it's a bit not great.